Our mayor is running a little late, so I'll be running the meeting until she gets here. First, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And I'm obviously looking forward to this part because you know how passionate I am about sports and kids in our community. So with that, we can get started with the workshop. So if there's anybody who'd like to get up and give us some ideas, obviously we have not made any decisions, nothing's set in stone. And we want to hear from you about your ideas and what you think we should do at the sports complex. So that being said, the mic is open. Mr. Schwartz? I always say it wrong. I apologize, sir. You might have to turn the mic on.
Mr. Schultz.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just speak up. Yeah, there you go. Hey, at the sports complex, first old people, and that includes a couple of you guys, can we get a shuffleboard court built?
We can certainly put it on the list of wants and
Yeah.
see what we get.
I mean, since you're spending $6 million in King Griffith Park, it doesn't cost that much to build for us.
Just for the record, we threw that bid out and we've started over at King Griffin. So we're hoping to come in a lot cheaper than that number, sir. Anybody else would like to give their ideas or their opinions? Yes, ma'am. If you could come up to the mic, I know it's aggravating, but it's for the live stream, ma'am.
Sorry. I was just wondering if y'all were going to put in any pickleball courts, possibly any kind of indoor pickleball courts, like the complex, that little small metal building. I've never been inside of it or anything.
Yeah, the metal building's actually coming down, unfortunately.
Is it really?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
But we have had several discussions with Mr. Horton and his staff. And we're looking for ways to put pickleball in. And I realize now that we've got some community service board members here too. So I'm sure they're listening to you because they're the ones that are going to help as well figure this out.
Yeah,
and I think the whole commission has heard the community that they want this. So.
Yeah, slowly but surely, but this is like the fastest growing sport in the United States. So even our visitors that come here and stuff, obviously the beach side is, more so touristy area. But I mean, it's expanding and growing, and people that come to visit, they want to find places where they can go and play while they're here, having fun or whatever. So if we could have some in town as well. And of course, there's obviously quite a few of us locals, us old people, like Bob says.
I think it's a great.
Little kids can play this game, and the little kids can play, and there's 80-year-olds out there playing, so at least they're getting out and moving.
Yes, ma'am. I think the whole commission is hearing you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I apologize. I didn't think to ask the commission if the commission had anything they wanted to offer. And obviously, feel free to speak up anytime if anybody's got anything they want to say too.
Yeah, Commissioner Ursula, if I could, one of the things that I noticed when I have been out campaigning, I went out to the ball fields a lot and got signatures and all that good stuff. And I know one of the things that people are interested in, whether it's feasible or not, we'd have to look at, but is maybe having some of them shades over the bleacher areas, the sun shades like you see at the car wash, and it just allows some of the families out there, as you know, here in Florida, it gets very hot, so it just allows people to sit out there and watch their children in the shade. Just an idea.
Yeah. And I think we've actually even got some of those designed in the original King Griffin drawings. I think there were shades put into that. So, yes, sir. Anybody else on the commission?
Commissioner, if I may, if I can speak, Mr. Horton, I know through the Community Service Board, they planned on putting some pickleball in over at the Bel Air Estates Park over there, correct? And I know from talking to Mr. Miller, who's not here right now, but I know he has asked over and over about putting shuffleboard courts, as Mr. Schultz just asked, in 17th Street over at King Griffin Park. So I know that's a request and something that we should try to look at too. So, and then I'm all for pickleball wherever we can get it, pickleball and shuffleboard and disc golf wherever we can get it. So, because I think if we do that, we'll have more destination for people to be at our parks. That's the whole idea. You want to go to our park and see the populace and enjoy it and have fun. So.
Ms. Tender, would you like to offer anything?
No, not right now. Thanks.
Acting City Manager, Ms. Gaynor?
We have actually talked about a lot of things, David and I, of looking at the sports complex and what we can do to enhance it a lot. One of the things that we know is important is that when we rebuild this sports complex back, it needs to be able to withstand the winds that came through. So we are looking and working with FEMA to see whether or not we can work to put that particular building as even a shelter, if they will permit that. We are just soliciting ideas from you today. No idea is a bad idea. Just so you know, we do have people that are over to the side taking notes. Those notes will be compiled. We've had several workshops, and all of these workshops will have all the notes of things that people have suggested, and that'll be available to the public. And so we want to definitely hear your ideas today, and we will take those ideas back. And when we start to plan to rebuild, we'll look at those ideas. They just won't sit on a shelf anywhere. We will look at those ideas and we will take them seriously. So have at it and think of things that will enhance the city of Lynn Haven. I am going to call our community service director, David Horton, and let him share some things, insights that we have talked about with the sports complex.
Ms. Vicky, if I could tag on to that as well. I want to make sure everybody understands that we're not trying to compete with Panama City Beach with this sports complex. It gets interchanged a lot with in the media and just, hearsay of Lynn Haven's building a sports park and the beach already has a sports park. What we're really going for is not the tourist dollars, but we want to be the destination for the families. We want to be the destination for the regional areas that don't have nice ballparks that can travel teams that come to our area, because we're home base in Bay County. We consider the beach more the tourist and the travel teams, the big teams that come in throughout the year. But I think we need to make sure that we're looking at that hometown sports park as well, and not think about tourist or travel teams coming in, just something in the back of the mind. Thank you.
David, if you would, before you get started, our mayor is now here, so I'm going to turn the meeting over to her. You sure?
Just a moment, please.
Okay, yes, ma'am. David, if you would, go ahead.
So what we're looking at doing out at the sports complex is basically get the baseball fields back up to where everybody can play, where we can actually help out the high schools during the summer to bring more people into us with more fields for them to play. They don't have to travel as far. So we would accommodate that. We want to try and accommodate the colleges that don't have nowhere to practice up north. They're always calling, asking if anybody in Bay County's got somewhere they can practice, because it's in January and February, they're in snow. They want to get out of the snow. So basically get the baseball fields back up to a decent size going that way. We wanted to, Kane Griffin, everybody knows Kane Griffin, tried to move the smaller kids over there so they would not interrupt with the bigger kids. So the big part would be, once you get out of that small kid thing, oh, good, I get to go to play at this park. So we're trying to make it a whole thing. The gym, we were trying to deal with, like she said, with FEMA and make that a shelter so it's full-time so they can actually help pay for it. We got to get bigger. We know Tyndall's coming back strong. One basketball court is not good for anybody's area. And then now anybody 18 and over has nowhere to go play basketball inside right now. If you're 18 and over, they keep calling every day, hey, when's the gym coming back? Nobody can play 18 and over because some of the high schools lost their gyms, and then all the boys club, us, Fusion, everybody lost their gym. And I've got a few people telling me a few ideas that they would like. Some of the elderly people asked if we could put a walking track inside the gym also, so they can walk out of the rain. Extra rooms for people to go in and do crafts. Got a lot of card players that come. We had card players at the old one, 4 out of the 5 days a week. Some of the seniors would come there, rent the room, and play cards all day long. We have, I don't want to say, some of the people that are handicapped, they would come, they would rent it, and they can have that room, and they used it to get out of the weather so that they could, is it cerebral palsy, I think it was, but they had a group that just came there every day,
Yes.
and they would walk, and then they would do their exercises also in that room. So the gym is going to be more than just basketball. The gym is probably the biggest part that we need the most, but we need to do everything out of the gym, daycare, weight room, everything that we can draw people to here to help out the community.
Thank you, David. And as much as I'm a baseball guy, I know and have talked to you in the past that basketball was busting at the seams before the hurricane, and now it's obviously even worse. So the gym is going to be something that we're really going to have to look at and make sure we take care of. Mayor, are you ready to take them? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell, and I do apologize for my lateness. I was delayed, and I appreciate your patience. David, go ahead.
On the basketball, we went to Lynn Haven Elementary and Mowat, and we actually will have a league for the kids this year from 3 years old to 14 years old. And right now, we think it's pretty good. We got like 200 kids. So we got to try and play 200 kids on one day, though. That's the bad part. But Lynn Haven has stepped up, and Mowat has stepped up to let us use their gym.
Very good.
And Mayor?
Sure, go ahead.
And also with that is that we are partnering with the Boys and Girls Club. Those are some of the kids that also have been impacted and not been able to utilize their gym. And so we're partnering with them to have some of the kids come over and play basketball and be in the league. They are very much used to that. And I think it's a great opportunity for Lynn Haven, of course, to expand our wings and reach into the community and help some of the other organizations that are struggling and trying to give activities to kids.
Thank you. And as this is a public hearing for public input about the sports complex, at this time, we would entertain anyone from the public who has suggestions or input or questions. And Mr. Horton, if I can put you on the spot, and also the city manager or any other staff, if any of the public has questions for you, would you be willing to answer those as well? So if you would like to speak at this time, there are microphones at both sides of the room. And the microphones are because our meetings are live streamed so that the people who are listening from home or work can hear everything that's going on. So if you just don't be shy about adjusting the microphone so that everyone can hear you speak. Anyone?
I'm Gabrielle. I just moved into this area last December, but I used to come down before the hurricane, and I don't know if this falls into the right area, but there was the boardwalk around the side of the lake by the sports complex there. Does that belong with the sports complex, or is there anything in the works to repair that?
Are we talking about the walking path around the pond? Is that?
Yeah, and then there was a boardwalk where you could go into.
Mhm.
It said poisonous snakes, beware.
And I think that ultimately the idea is for everything out there to be, renovated and restored to at least to where it was, and then with improvements in other areas. But, this meeting is for suggestions of maybe new things that someone else hasn't thought of or that you'd like to bring up. And I would like to reiterate about the importance of the gym and my feelings personally as mayor of having that gymnasium as soon as possible out there, not only for sports, but as another shelter, because we definitely need more space in case of an emergency. So anyone else?
Mayor, we have two from Facebook. So the first is Lacrosse Fields. Somebody would like to see dedicated fields to lacrosse. Somebody else would also like to see indoor volleyball, either a dedicated court or a shared court with basketball that they could move nets on and off the court.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Mrs. Walker.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Do we have any order or sequence as to when all of the restoration work or rebuilding work will be done? For instance, one of these workshops, we had the City Hall, one we had the Senior Center Garden Club. Tonight, we're having the sports complex, and the next month, we're having the library. Where does everything fit in? Are we going to build the senior center first and then go like this, that's done? And then go on to the second and say that's done? How are we working that schedule?
That is an excellent question, and I would love to just respond and then pass over to the city manager because I know that she has her thoughts on this as well. And we do work very closely as we're meeting with FEMA and Tetra Tech and the insurance adjusters as well as the public adjusters. A lot of this depends on the settlement with insurance, which is not complete yet. It will depend upon the reimbursement by FEMA and our funding. We are in a very good place now because of the bond issue that has been approved. And so as I envision this as mayor, and the commission may have different thoughts, which I'm sure they can, bring forth as we continue, but I don't envision it necessarily being a step-by-step, a 1, 2, 3. I envision it being something that's happening with many different contractors working with a vision of rebuilding the city. It just depends on how it all comes out. If when the bids are put out, if the bids are only divided between 1 or 2 people, or maybe if they subcontract out. But I don't think it has to be in an order. I know that there are things that are important to all of us. We've discussed the Senior Citizen Center, how important it is to get that back and rolling for our seniors. And of course, that is a repair. It's a structural repair and a roof, which will move that along faster. But these public hearings are to bring a gathering of information. It's an opportunity for everyone in the community to have input. But as far as a timeline or what comes first, I don't necessarily think it has to be a chronological order. It may be a meshing of some chronological, some all together. We may just see it all, arising at the same time. So, City Manager, would you like to jump in there?
Thank you. Yes, that is exactly the way we've kind of talked about this entire rebuild. We knew that there were some things we need to get up and going pretty fast. We knew that Senior Center, Service Center, where we're working out of right now, Garden Club, those are projects that we felt like that we could do fairly quickly and get them going. And so those happened first, not for any other reason that we felt like that's a rebuild process that could start first. But I would like to see the City Hall and the chambers and the police department now start on its way. But then there's that contingency of how we get that money in, how those bids go out, how they come back, what they look like, if FEMA approves those. If they say, this proposal looks good. So there's so many different areas of where we have to look at it, and we can't put a schedule together. Would I love to rebuild everything at one time? Yes, and if that's possible, I surely would. But I cannot wait to see, and I say probably 2 years, this city will look very, very different. And it will be the premier city here in Bay County. I can guarantee you that.
Thank you.
Are there other commissioners who would like to weigh in on that question with your thoughts?
I agree with both the statements. I don't think it's like our personal homes where you have to do steps so much. I think you do have to have a general direction, but as well as the money comes in, we can fix things. I agree with both the comments.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Do we have anything else coming in online? Okay.
So the first was indoor racquetball courts. They also want to see tennis courts at the sports complex as well.
Okay. So indoor racquetball and tennis courts are some input.
The mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
Something that I've talked to people about that I think they're somewhat confused on is that the FEMA money and insurance money can only be used for certain things. Like, for example, to rebuild the parks, that money, if I understand correctly, can only be used in certain things, because I've had people come to me and say, I can't believe you're redoing this first. Well, if we have those funds, they can only be spent on that particular thing. So I think that's something we need to keep in the foreground also. If something gets done a little sooner than others. Am I correct on that, acting manager?
Would you like to go ahead, Ms. Gaynor, on that one, or I didn't want to monopolize?
I think what you're in terms referring to is how much money is allotted for each particular building. And in insurance, there's a certain amount of money that's allotted for, the parks, or allotted for a building, and you utilize that money. And then after that money is used, FEMA kicks in with the rest. And so you can't double dip. You have to be able to use the money that has been allotted for the insurance, and then you can submit to FEMA for reimbursement of the rest of that money.
Thank you.
Are there other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Janke?
My name is Ben Jenke. I'd like to make a comment or a request in regards to the gym. And as a matter of fact, maybe a comment to all of the buildings that have to be repaired, rebuilt, municipal buildings. I would like to request consideration of using a geothermal air conditioning system instead of a conventional, because that alleviates the need of an air handler unit on the outside or on the roof that can be blown away. With a geothermal system, you have everything underground, which would be a lot safer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other thoughts? Well, I'll fill in for a moment. I don't want to cut the meeting short, the public hearing. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is thinking about what you'd like to say, or if there were questions that maybe you hadn't thought of or just didn't want to quite voice them yet. But with Kane Griffin Park about to be rebuilt with softball, baseball, and those sports, some people have asked me, well, will we still have baseball or softball or those ball fields rebuilt at the sports complex? And what I've told them is I think that it's entirely possible, that will, of course, come about, just depending upon what the residents want to do out there. I think that this may be a process. It may be, how well does Kane Griffin work, and is it fulfilling our needs? And do we need to go bigger, or do we need to stay where we are? Or maybe we just are on a timeline of waiting and see what happens as we move along. One of the, if there are any benefits of having your city completely destroyed by a storm, is that we do have sort of an empty canvas to work on, and we can go in many different directions. So I hope the public hearings have been helpful in allowing people to speak their minds. And I had anticipated maybe a larger crowd tonight, but the weather may have kept people away. So I hope that people who are listening online will feel free to continue to send their suggestions in, continue to email the commissioners, the mayor, the city manager, and each of you, if you happen to think of something after the meeting or later that you want to add, just because the public hearing ends doesn't mean that you can't bring your suggestions later. So does anyone else on the commission want to add to that before we move on to the regular commission meeting? And last chance for anyone to speak. Okay, so did we need to take a break before we move to the commission meeting? And we're going to start right at 6? Okay. Yes, we had one more, okay.
Appreciate you having these public meetings. As the schedule showed last Tuesday, I and several others showed up as scheduled, but there was nobody here, and I think that's pretty bad.
Last Tuesday? Yes, Mrs. Walker?
Yes. One of the advertisements that were in the paper had the sports complex date as August the 20th.
So the
And-
date was incorrect on a flyer?
It was incorrect on this.
Okay.
And I think that's why you may have so few people here. And the second thing, on the first agenda on the city's website, it said that the sports complex workshop would start at 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
And so,
So some confusion over the time.
yes, exactly. I think that's two reasons together. That's why you may be lacking in participation.
Okay. Do we know how many people actually showed up last week for a meeting? Just one?
I was here, not in the building, of course, it was locked, at least 3 or 4 outside.
Okay, well, I apologize on behalf of the city for any confusion about the dates. The hearings have typically been on the same night as the commission meeting. They hadn't, varied from that, but still, if there was a mistake in the advertisement, there was, and maybe we can have an additional hearing if that would be helpful, if you feel that some people were not able to speak. Are there other comments? Okay.
I did have one more from Facebook. They want to see a sidewalk that runs from Hilltop Lane all the way to the sports complex. So it would add extra walking trails as well as a way for them to get to the sports complex safely.
Okay, thank you. A sidewalk from Hilltop Lane to the sports complex. All right, if there's no further comment, then we will break at this time for about 30 minutes, and the regularly scheduled commission meeting will begin at 6. Thank you so much for coming, and again, we apologize if there was any confusion about the dates due to that print. Thank you.